So right now, the goal is for council to receive information so the council can make a decision. We're not here selling it, we're the ones being told. So this is after the Planning and Zoning Commission makes their recommendation, which we received the recommendation letter, which if anybody was here last week, I read that. So after we received that, at the conclusion of the public hearing, or within 90 days thereafter, the city council shall either adopt or deny the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission, or adopt some modification thereof, all by a simple majority vote. So we can accept it, what they recommended, or we can make some modifications of that with a simple majority. It requires 2/3 affirmative vote for city council for the passage of any ordinance or resolution that is contrary to the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So, but the way we understand that is if we deny it, it's going to take 2/3 majority vote. So, having said that, first I would like to ask if you would like to add anything to what you just giving you an opportunity to speak.
No, we can address any questions.
Okay.
If you'd like.
Next, I'd like to just kind of throw it out to council before we get into the public. If you have any questions, comments, things that you would want us to bring up that you thought through.
I do.
Okay.
I have a problem, and I emailed all of you, with the amount of traffic going in and out, only because of Center Road. I think it's gonna really create a problem down on South Main Street, and we've had so many accidents there on Center and Renninger. I know we got a light up there for Manchester, but I'd like to see some way that we could avoid all of that traffic going in and out at one time. For an event, is what I'm saying.
Generally, it would be staged. I mean, when people leave, they're going to be leaving at different times. Just with, it's going to be a wedding venue, so I would imagine a lot of times people at any wedding, always wants people to already left at different times. One of the things that we find that is appealing about the site is that there will be ceremonies at the site. So there may be times when people first get there that they will get there staged at times. I don't see how we can phase it any more than, because there's only one natural way to come into the property is through Center Road. We did look at bringing access through the back. The concern with the back access points that we have here is that's truly it's not as busy a street as Center Road. So of all the options, we just felt that Center Road was the best option to get traffic in and out of it.
Probably the only way we could slow it down a little bit would be turn lanes there. But otherwise, that would be a big factor to me. To have so many people trying to get out at one time. And I understand what you're saying, they may not do that. But chances are, most of them, when they're finished, they want to go. And they don't want to wait.
When you say a turning lane, I don't understand.
If you had a turning lane coming in and going out, that extra lane would slow everything down a little bit.
I can address that. You can only improve what's on their property.
Yes,
So you can't improve the right of way.
and that's what I said, that would be the only other option, I think, to slow it down, other than doing some kind of a count that only so many people would be coming in or going out within a certain amount of time.
We can address that through the occupancy level of the barn. There'll be, as this progresses, obviously you all know this is the zoning step. So then the next step would be full-blown construction drawings. And at that time, your building official will review the plans, determine the maximum number of occupants that can be in the building to start with. And so that will be regulated by by the building code. As to any exterior events, one of the conditions that the zoning commission placed was that the special event permit would be issued if it were some kind of outdoor event. And that was a very specific condition that the developer agreed to control such situations. So
Control it how? With traffic
Because
going in
there's-
and out?
a special event permit. So
Right,
I believe it's the mayor, is, Gary can correct me, who issues this special?
Well, I issue it through the zoning department, but the mayor approves it and also it is looked at by the police and fire departments. And I don't know, Mayor, if there's anybody else that looks at that as well, but.
Yeah, that's essentially it.
Right.
So they check off what the needs are and whether there's recommendations, and then ultimately it ends up with the mayor's desk.
Gary, does that have anything listed on it, how many cars going in and out during a certain time period?
No, it doesn't. We don't address the
I
traffic
didn't
part
think
of
we
the
did,
zoning
no.
code.
And the building, you mentioned the building, that would be county, Summit County Building Department, right?
Correct.
Yes.
That is correct.
And, go ahead. I just want to let council say their piece and then we'll.
So my question is, I'm assuming you did the due diligence on this before you purchased the property. Did you have some discussions with the city about if this would be allowed, or what the percentages that they thought that may be allowed, or how did those discussions go?
We just looked at the conditional use. We knew that we would have to get a conditional use permit on it, so.
Okay.
And we understood the process that we had to be followed, that prior to this new introduction, with the new code, it was where it would just go to the planning and zoning, prior to December 31st, 2023, and then with the new, the new zoning code, it now goes to council. So when we first bought the property, it was just where it went to the planning and zoning commission, and with the change in the code, it now goes to this body. At the time when we bought the property, we weren't aware of that because it's a new code.
Which is why we're kind of feeling our way, because it's the first one I've done.
Well, even under the old code, it was going to go this process. It was going to go through planning and zoning, then end up with council.
No, not in city council on the old code.
Oh, okay. It ended at planning and zoning. All right, sorry.
But the new code it does, yes.
I have a few comments.
Good.
There's been a lot of talk about the different concerns, and Ms. Jones brings up an excellent point about the traffic concerns. I don't necessarily hold that concern with traffic. Since 2020, there have been 3 accidents in that area. One happened last year that we know about, the guy went into the house. And then 2 at Kalen in the center. And they both happened in 5 o'clock in the evening hour. As far as traffic at Center Road and Main Street, I don't see that as an issue either, because as people are leaving, it's going to be 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. It's a whole different dynamic traffic-wise versus 5 o'clock in the evening, when traffic does back up on Center and trying to turn. And just like they said, with weddings, people are leaving throughout. At the end of the event, you may have a third of the people left. Because, you have, especially the way this is going to be set up, you have the wedding, people are going to leave. You have the reception, old people like me are going to leave as soon as I get my food. You have other people, then family and friends that may stay till the end to, enjoy the activities, talk, et cetera. But it's going to be more of a staggered taking out. If there's truly a concern with cars moving out, one of the conditions we can look at is that they hire a police officer to direct traffic when exiting. There's a cost, but in a grand scheme of things, it's not going to be that huge of a cost, and that could help with the concern. With the concern with drunk driving, I don't know what your plans are, but weddings in these type of events, these type of centers, they run $20,000, $30,000. These aren't going to be just beer guzzling hootenannies. I love a good hootenanny. That's not what I want to see there. And the people that the parents that are doing this, a lot of times they're the ones that are purchasing the alcohol. They're the ones that are liable. The bartenders will be liable, et cetera. But the parents are going to be liable. So very aware. These wedding reception centers are seeing a lot more Uber drivers. They're seeing a lot more shuttle buses going to hotels and back. So they're not seeing the fear of craziness of people leaving. They've already said they'll have a police officer on duty, and that police officer is not going to let someone walk by them and get in a car if there's a concern. I mean, they're just not. So I don't know that that's a huge concern. The idea of the noise, yeah, there's going to be noise, and they're addressing that. Part of the condition is that the wedding can be outside, but the reception needs to be inside to help keep the noise inside. There's concerns about people wandering the property. That's a big property to be wandering at night. But they're already addressing it with we've talked about a mound of trees, fencing, et cetera. So that's being addressed also. And I also think this is a property that's going to get developed, whether it's a wedding event center such as this. It's a big property. It could be a shooting range. It's a big property. Water is right there at Caston and the property line. So sewer is only about 2 miles away. So now somebody could come in and potentially put up condos, apartment buildings, houses. That's going to create a lot more traffic, a lot more noise. Someone said they could put a pig farm there. They could put a pig farm there, and that's a lot of noise, a lot of smell.
Yeah, we wouldn't have much we could say about that.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I understand that people don't want to see this, people that live in the neighborhood are concerned, but I don't hold all those same concerns. I think we can mitigate a lot of their concerns. And the one concern that I do have is I am concerned that you are not from the area, that you don't live in the area, that you're not going to be in the area when these things, and that you're going to hire a management company to run this. So I'm concerned about who that management company is going to be. I'm concerned about what experience that management company is going to have. I'm concerned about how much stake, for lack of a better word, how much skin in the game they have. If we're getting Bob's Pizza Shop and Bob says, hey, I gotta run a wedding, yeah, I mean, that's not gonna work. We need to, if this goes through, we put conditions on it, we need to make sure that we have a professional management company that is going to run it professionally, going to know all the rules, all the conditions that are in place, and that is committed to running it properly and running it within our guidelines. I think as far as zoning goes, we can move forward and approve the zoning part of it and allow the building to take place. But I'd like to see us have, and I don't know if we do now or not, but I'd like us to have some type of like operating permit, where the management company has to come to us to get an operating permit. And we have to approve that management company. We have to approve what they, that they have skin in the game as such, that they're going to be committed. That maybe is a 3-year contract. So it's not, again, a turnover of management company every year. We talk about one of the conditions being that is a temporary, that we put, reviews or renewals.
Condition.
Conditional. Temporary condition.
But I don't know if that needs to be part of the zoning process, or if we do the operating permit, that's part of the operating permit. That, that we can have a yearly renewal of that operating permit to verify that it is being operated properly, that it is being operated with the neighbors in mind, that it is being operated with the city in mind, and that things are being done the way we envision them to be done. So that's kind of my thoughts.
I'd like to
Yes,
grab
sir.
onto the end of that because somebody made a comment to me about that, and I guess I'm not really familiar, that it's not always the property owner who would apply for the permit. Sometimes it would be the operator who would apply for it.
And that's who it should be, yes.
Okay, and that's not what we've got here.
Right.
Go ahead.
So just a couple of things to follow up on that. So first of all, this is a conditional use permit. So if the property owner or the operator doesn't comply with the conditions, your remedy is to revoke the conditional use. So it's almost automatic. You don't have to wait till another day or another. Now, obviously, you have to issue a notice and there's due process rights. The second thing I want to mention is you sort of already have that with the special event permit.
Mhm.
So if there's anything but the events that are listed here, they have to come to Barry and the mayor to
Sure.
get approval. So if there's any, there were a lot of different examples thrown out at us.
Right, but we're
To your
looking
point
at,
is the wedding.
Correct.
Okay. You know, I think you gotta be careful there because you're saying, you know, oh, we gotta have a minimum 3-year contract. Well, that goes both ways. If you have a bad operator,
right,
he's probably gonna wanna get them rid of them tomorrow. and
Right, but-
not lock into 3
right.
years.
Yeah.
Then Dave can address your, talking to wedding venue operators.
And the company that we're talking to, and I don't, we haven't locked anything down, so I don't want to
Sure.
disclose of it. They own an event center, and they're looking to expand and operate another event center. And we've talked about potentially them being a partner of ours. But we
Okay.
don't want to, we want to make sure we have everything in place.
Correct.
No, I'm not from this area. I live in Independence, it's 45 minutes away. But we're planning on investing a lot of money in that property and in the community. And the only way it's gonna make financial sense for us is to have an operator that can get those venues that are $30,000. To have a good operator that's gonna, because a good operator is gonna enhance the profitability of the venue. And then more importantly, a good operator is gonna meet all the requirements of the community. So if they're not meeting those, if they're, just letting anybody come in there and have these big parties, you guys can immediately revoke it. And if, then we're out. What do we do with we have all that money?
I understand
Our
completely.
our incentive is to have an operator that's gonna do an awesome job. During one of these meetings, I think, somebody had mentioned, have we spoken to any local operators? And we have not. But if anybody has any suggestions on who they think we may be a good operator, we're open. We haven't made any commitments to an operator. And my background, my wife's background is both in finance and then we own real estate. Our son, we have one son that's working in DC, another son is in Columbus, and when he graduates from Ohio State, he's gonna work for our business. But we're the first to know that, we got married, but we don't operate wedding venues, and we don't want to try to do something we don't have any experience in. We know real estate development, and that's what we want to do, is to develop the building to the historic standards of the National Park. But we recognize our weakness, and our weaknesses is we need a good partner to operate it, and a good partner that's going to adhere to the community and make sure it advances the community and not a distraction to the community.
So just, as you were giving some of your thoughts, I was thought about this quite a bit. And first off, I agree that a property owner should be able to do what he wants with his property within reason. And what that caveat within reason is, as long as you're not changing the character of the neighborhood. Let's say you had that restaurant with a big garage up, need a variance, I'm all for that. When you're starting to change or add businesses or something like that to a residential area, that's where I say, we need to really think about what type of business, where do we draw that line? A wedding event center we may be okay with, but then what if the guy wants to put a car repair place back there? How is that any different? Is that going to generate any more noise? Limited traffic. I mean, where is that line, and where do we draw it as far as what we're willing to accept in an area and potentially change the character of the neighborhood? So that's probably my first comment there. But I don't know if you guys have any.
How much are you planning on investing? Like, do you know the sort
We probably already put $1 million in, so we're probably gonna be about $2.5 million.
Three, did you say 2.5 or 3.5?
About 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
He will be divorced.
I just didn't hear you.
Yeah, one of the things that I believe that you've done this in the past, right? I think we spoke last time, 6 different. Do you still own those buildings, or do you develop and then
We
sell?
sold, one building in 2021, so.
Do you still have
We
5?
don't, yes, there's still property we own in the improvement area. And everything is done to the standards of the National Park Service. And one of the comments that have been made is that there's financial incentives, federal tax credits that we'll get, for investing in, because when we first bought the property, it was not listed in the National Register, but now it's listed in the National Register as historic properties, and the barn is listed, the garage is between the barn and the farmhouse, so all the renovation has been done to the standards of National Park. So then we'll get a tax credit on the federal income tax, but there'll be, we're not asking for anything from the city, from the Summit County. The state of Ohio has a federal tax credit program, so we participate in that program, but it's a state tax credit, and it's available to anybody that's awarded the project, so for federal credits.
It's interesting too, you mentioned that when you do things to the National Park District, or National Park standards, you also can't change them. So,
Right.
if you were to change the use and try to add an addition, tax credit structure is destroyed and the credits go away, basically. So, the good thing is you're basically locking into this community. That's gonna look the way it's gonna look because that's part of the package.
How is that locked in over time? Would there be a look back period I mean, once you get the credit, you've got the credit?
It's just a part of the process of having it meet the standards. So, for example, the windows that we use on the farmhouse, those windows were approved by the National Park Service. So fast forward in 5 years, that's when that recapture is over with. But we've already spent that money, so to go and change those windows, why? Because they're already in place.
I was just curious if there was a mechanism, and you just answer with there's a 5-year period.
I have a couple of things.
Go ahead, Greg.
This is in my ward.
Okay.
I have received a multitude of emails, conversations about noise and traffic. My ward is fairly large. I have yet anybody in my ward or anybody in the city to reach out to me and say this is the best thing since sliced bread. So I gotta take that into consideration with what I do here, because they're who I represent.
Right, I understand.
Question I have for you though is the property at 427 Center, which is your neighbor to the west. Have you entered into any verbal or written agreements to use any of that property? It's a little white house with 2-car detached garage.
So there's an easement that, are you referring to the property that Mrs. Miller owned?
She did.
She did, yeah, she passed away. So there's an easement that when Mrs. Miller was alive, her and I worked on an easement, for where, when we bought the property, we didn't know that the property didn't have access to Center Road. So we had an easement with Mrs. Miller, and it was an easement in which we could go along, it was like maybe 10 feet or so. And I have it and mess up, but it enabled us to access our road. Access the street. And one of the things that Mrs. Miller had said is that she wanted to have the flexibility that she had like 2.7 acres there. So she wanted to have the flexibility if she ever needed to get to her property. So what we did is we gave, and it's still an easement, but we provided an easement so that the property owner would have to use our driveway if they ever needed to. That's the only arrangement that I can, as a matter of public record, that we
Yeah, and that was done with Mrs. Miller,
Right.
not with the new owner.
That's correct. That's correct.
It's one of the questions I received recently about any agreements there, so
I think that
thanks for asking.
I think that the front of that, Mrs. Miller's house, was phenomenal, what the work that's been done so far. And she, after Mrs. Miller passed away, I did have conversations with, Mark Miller about our interest in buying it, and we were interested in buying it, but it's just, we're putting so much money in the farm, I joke around, wink at Karen, which my wife would not let it, so really, we just couldn't make that investment in it, so. But I'm glad whoever has done it, I think they've done a nice job just cleaning it up, so.
Just out of curiosity, do you have a plan B for the property if this is denied?
I do not. A pig farm? We don't want to develop the back end of it, we want to keep it as a farm. But the answer to the question, we don't have a plan B, but our preference is not to develop that back side of that property, so.
You mentioned interest in talking to locals about possibly running it. We already have 3 event centers. We have Gather at the Lakes, which is, or Gather, I'm sorry, not Gather, but Gather at Lala's. Then we have Occasions. So Gather at Lala's is here on Manchester Road. Occasions is on Manchester Road to the south. And then the Tudor House, which the city actually owns. And we hire a manager, or made a lease out of them. I mean, I'm not using the right terminology, but we do have operators here who already have centers in the city. And it would mean a lot to me if you use someone in the city. That would, I'm not saying that's the only concern I have, because I have other concerns, but that's a very large one. You, the owner, is not from here, not even from Summit County. If you have an operator that's not even from Summit County, that's a little concerning. We're a small little community, one of the smallest municipalities in Summit County, so we don't swing a big hammer when it comes to, things that happen. I mean, we're still a city, we're a municipality, we got a great mayor, here we are, but yeah, thank you. That local would go along with it.
Yeah, I think you do have a big hammer, and the reason I say that is that if we have an operator, if they're from Summit County, if they're across the street, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do and operating that venue in such a manner that it's an amenity for the community, and your hammer is to terminate it. And so I understand your points that we certainly will engage with, to have conversations with local operators and stuff, but if somebody's not operating that property, it doesn't matter where they're at. At the end of the day, it's not operated in a manner that's a benefit for the community. And that's what our objective is.
Anybody else before I open it up to the post?
Real quick, I think you said the back road. Were you investigating another entrance and you said it's not feasible, or do you have access?
We do have access. So we have.
So you own,
we-
okay.
Yeah.
And that would be Caston, right?
Deborah?
We're talking about Caston?
Or does Deborah come up? I know it goes all the way to Caston.
This is, it's not the survey that I was looking at.
We can pretty well see it. But
So this is we have access here, and we also have access down here, and then also on Caxton. And when
Is that Deborah?
Yes.
Yeah.
when I realized that we didn't have access directly on Center Road, that's when we began looking at alternatives here. And then we were thinking of putting a road, not a road, but just a driveway here and stuff. And then I did talk to Barry about that and Mayor Adamson, and the concern was going through these small streets, it just would not work for the community. And then that's when I spoke to the two neighbors, Mr. Strickland, so we have an easement with Mr. Strickland, our neighbor to the east, and we also have an easement with 427.
Where's that house? Can you point to it on 427 that everybody's talking about?
I think this would be a great,
Oh, wait, no.
I think it's this one.
Oh, right there?
Oh.
Okay.
And then this house, I think, I don't think anyone's living in this house, I'm not sure why, but the White House is right here.
Anybody else? So, the one thing I would like to ask of the public, I think it's good for everyone, it's good that we've had so much participation. I think everyone should get to hear, should get the opportunity to speak, who wants to speak. We've also received a number of emails and other communications across council. The only thing I ask is just try not to be repetitive. Try to make your comments concise. Saying it 5 times doesn't make it more impactful. So just in the observation of time for the group. So I'll open it up to the public. Didn't expect that.
You want me to scan?
Yeah, then we should get your name and your address, or we don't need to in here. I guess we don't need to in here.
Hi, Jess Evans. So I just wanted to point out what it says in the comp plan that we all went through last year. And one of the action items under residential says, enforce current residential codes, no business in residential. So it kind of negates the whole thing right there. I don't know if we're following the comp plan or if you're just taking recommendations from the comp plan, but I thought it was worth pointing out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom Belcher. It's hard to do this without being repetitive. I think everybody says the same thing, but I just ask the council members to just ask yourself, if, would you be okay with this right down the street from you? The other night or 2 nights ago, had the windows open, little kids in the house, and hear the frogs and all that stuff, and that's gonna change. Traffic's loud on this road, I bought my house 10 years ago, live right on Center Road, got a lot of money invested in it, more than I'll get back out of it. And this is where we want to raise our family and, continue to grow. So it's just take that into consideration.
Thank you very much. I guess I meant the same person to say the same thing.
I was in the other meetings too, so I said that once or twice.
Anybody else?
No?
Do you have any tie to 2 Camel Acres at Historic Farm? You ever heard of that? No.
Who did you ask?
2 Camel Acres was a business down a little bit further on Centerfield Main Street. According to their Facebook page, kind of like fruits and veggies kind of
The
thing.
farm there.
Yeah, a little farmer goes out, the alpaca.
Yeah, so they call it 2 Camel Acres at Historic Sword Farm.
So we have no interest in that, but one of Mrs. Miller's daughters did mention that about the Sword Farm, because she grew up there, and she said that there was another Sword Farm, and I think it's that one that you're referring to.
I'm just curious if there's any connection.
No, and the person that we bought the property from was the second family, so we're the third owner of that property, and it's been there since like 1850. And I think my understanding is that the owners of that property, they originally, they had sheep, and they were at an area that was purchased by Summit County, so then they relocated to that property in the 1850s or 1860s, and then that's when they built the barn that we all see now. And then the farmhouse was built in 1870.
And that would have been a full section. The Sorek property would have probably, the entire Sorek property would have gone all the way to Main Street.
So that Sword Farm that you're referring to, it may have been like a splinter where it was a family member at one, a Sword family member and stuff at one time, so.
Thank you.
Kenneth Abrams, what do you have for the street? I mean, are you going to widen the street right there and put in curb and gutter?
I mean, the driveway going up to our property?
I'm talking at the street itself. You're going to have it, just that driveway. I've been down there and looked, okay, and if you put that driveway in where it's at there, and that's only 2 lanes, you're not going to do no curb on your side of the street or widen the street for a turn lane to go in, or we're just going to have single lane each way and the cop out there, like you said, directing traffic
We're like, we would have just a police officer out there directing traffic coming in and out, but we wouldn't do anything to make a turning lane in the street. We've increased the size of that apron for our culvert. It's now 30 feet wide, so that 2 cars will be able to pull in there, but there wouldn't be a turning lane.
Well, I realize that. I'm curious more of a widening of the street for a turn lane. Everybody's worried about cars backing up and everything. For one thing, I don't think they're gonna back up going down the center to Main Street, okay? At 8 o'clock at night, or 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, you know? And if that's a problem, then tell the people, or you put it on the back of your invitation. Come down Manchester Road. We got 15 stoplights down there, and traffic is controlled more. Okay. And it doesn't make a difference if it's a traffic light or just a flashing stop red light. Okay. I live in a neighborhood, the mayor, Mr. Gotts know where I live, the 3-way stop sign at Renninger they call it, okay. All right, I'm in my car, my wife's new car the other day, first time drove it. This is the second time it's happened in 40 years. I stopped, I hesitated, and I stopped again. And a pickup truck blows to the stop sign about 60 mile an hour. They need to sit up there at the pump station more and watch that. That's the second time now. And in this car, I know I'd have been dead. And the other one was a big truck, and it would have probably been on its side. Okay. Now I'm also asking, if you send them back up through Manchester, and if they're that stupid and left and they're inebriated, okay, and they left, all right, let's let Manchester stop them instead of the sheriff or Green, okay? If we're gonna, we're looking.
We need to.
There's some revenue.
The dialogue on what he can control and what we have to approve. So, any other thoughts?
Judy Williams, live at 5060 Real Drive on the corner of Center Road. And I just want to say that piece of property has been an eyesore for years and years and years. And I'm glad that you're doing something with it to improve it. It looks nicer already. And as far as traffic, I don't think that would be a problem. If people just will go on and move, and if you're delayed 5 minutes, it's no big deal. There isn't a lot of traffic on Main Street in the evenings, and I personally don't think it would be a problem.
Yeah, I agree. It's not Blossom Music Center, okay, where the cars are lined up coming in and going out. I can't see lines of cars on Center Road to get into this place, and the gentleman never said what yet the occupancy of the place is going to be.
Yeah, we don't know that.
We don't know that yet because we don't have the full construction drawings yet, so, but it would be to the, whatever we do, it would be submitted to.
I mean, you've got an idea on one of your plans there of how big the parking lot's going to be then, right?
We just did it just preliminary, and we have so much land there, we have an abundance of land for parking, so, but we envision it's gonna all
That's
be.
true. And then I'm just gonna have one more. The water runoff, it already has some runoff when it goes down into the ditch. You're gonna create more, so what are you gonna, you're gonna do storm sewer, across the property from the parking lots out to the street, or you're gonna tie into, your own little, the creek, how it comes down there and let it flow into it?
That would be required by the next step, which is the building. So right now, we're just looking at whether we change the zoning to allow this to happen. Those details would all be in the building permit process, which would be with Suffolk County. Go ahead, stormwater.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, no, and just in general, I can go beyond stormwater.
Okay.
If it's okay.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
And I know you didn't mean to say this, changing the zoning, this isn't about changing the zoning. This is, the zoning has changed.
Okay.
This is a conditional use in that zoning district. Only a couple thoughts. Mr. Powell's question was a good question. Did the city make any representations? And Mr. Bukowski answered that honestly. He came to us and with his plans, he paid a substantial amount of money for the property. That's a good thing. I agree with Mrs. Williams. It's nice to see the place cleaned up. We think you should just really redo the barn to its historic stature and then just go back to independence. And I say that facetiously. I know you know. So, but here's what I want to say. Noise and traffic, you know, and I understand, you know, the people reached out immediately on the street right across, you know, on the road right across the street. And then there's been some discussion, there was a discussion 2 weeks ago about a 3-year conditional review or a 5-year or whatever. And, you know, it struck me then, and it's been pointed out since then, that's a tough hurdle for somebody who's going to spend a couple $1 million and perhaps have the plug pulled. I'm not speaking in favor of the project. I'm just saying that's the reality. I can understand why there would be a concern in that regard. I talked to some other sources relative to the idea of a conditional review hearing at 3 or 5 years. I think what council said, he's correct. If you have conditions, for instance, such as the conditions that planning and zoning put in relative to noise, and if they violate those conditions, you don't have to wait 3 years. All right? So the key is in the conditions. What's not in here are any conditions relative to traffic. And so if traffic's a concern, and I'm not going to suggest exactly what ought to be, but if there were some conditions relative to traffic, that somehow the traffic was going to be maintained in a way to ensure the safety of the community or something general. Attorneys don't like generic terms like that, but on the other hand, you know, you've got a burden if you're going to say there's a violation, but at least something along those lines. There was a talk about a traffic study. I'm not trying to spend more of your money, but you know, maybe that makes sense. And Mr. Bukowski knows that even initially, I had my own concerns, even before I knew there wasn't any exit there onto Center Road, because before some of you were born, but when some of you were really little, we were able to get a trucking company out of that area. And if you don't know that story, it's a very amusing story. Because we were successful, and I wasn't even on council then, I was private counsel at that point in time. We had to litigate on that, but that's another story. So that we know that area, and there's curves, and that's a tricky area, and I had my own concerns about that. And I spoke to Mr. Bukowski then, and recently too, about, you know, what about an access or exit or access onto Caston Road? Again, it's spending your money, it's expensive. Looking where you got property line, power lines you have to avoid, but it appears there's an area you could come out that would not be directly across from any side street. You know, might be a little, and at least you have two possibilities. I don't know if that's an answer or if it's not an answer, but maybe a traffic study on both sides could suggest something like that. And then if council is inclined to, you know, if you're disinclined to approve it, well then you are, you know, and but if you're inclined to approve it, but you're concerned about traffic, then it would be my suggestion to add some conditions relative to traffic. So that if in fact it turns out that traffic's an issue, well then you've got some teeth. And you could, that's probably something that could be achieved within the next, you know, you've got 90 days. And we're only 2 weeks into this at this point in time from the first hearing. So there's time to do that. And the last thing I want to say is, just in hearing this conversation, again, I've already spent your money, and I'm going to tell you how to run your business. The occupancy of the hall is going to be a big deal. I mean, if that hall can take 225 people, that's one thing. If it can take 125, that's something else. I took a walk up there on Sunday morning, and I've been up there before, but it was helpful to do that again. It's, you know, it's a little bit of a hike to get up to that barn, and, which is okay. And I looked from there to the neighborhoods over on Fawn, and it's a pretty good stretch. And there's the farmland in the middle there, because, yeah, this is not a house, okay? This is something different in a residential area, but it's a residential, it's an acreage that would be hard to develop residentially because of the power lines, and you got a lot of wetlands in there. I've said this much.
And a gas line
But
too.
the gas lines too. I mean, when I first heard it was sold, I said, great, we're gonna get some houses over there, okay? But really, when you look at it, there's only so much room to be able to do those things. But where it sits, it's a pretty good stretch from, and I love and respect the people over there. I know some of them close friends, and so I'm trying to be sensitive to that. It's not my call, but it's, you know, being sensitive to that, it's a pretty long stretch from over there. And looking from over there onto Kaylin, it's a pretty long stretch over to Kaylin, and the barn sits high and Kaylin's down here. I don't know what's going to happen to that sound, but at least you got some conditions in here relative to the sound. So does it fit or does it not fit? You know, it's certainly been beautified, and but I would just suggest if we're inclined to approve it, that you take some time and craft some conditions relative to traffic, so that in the event traffic becomes a problem, then you know, the city has a recourse.
Could we schedule a workshop for council to go visit the farm? Sure. Yeah, I mean, we can legally, we just have to advertise that we're doing it and publish it to be notified. That's just food for thought for you out there.
All right. Okay.
Valid point, yes. Go ahead.
So there was a mention, I'm sorry for not remembering who mentioned it. There were three accidents that we were talking about, but that doesn't include, so I do live on Kaylin, so I do see the plethora of vehicles that are in the ditches on that S curve all the time and getting pulled out by either us or somebody. So I just want to make mention of that. That doesn't include all those. Another question, and maybe this is more for the council. What are the tax implications for us, for our property values? I mean, our taxes just went up crazy, and everybody knows that. So what are the implications of this commercial center, commercial building going in our neighborhood? What's that do to us?
If I could speak to that, I would say that's almost impossible to predict. And I can't envision a huge positive or negative. So you've got a negative now that you've got a property that's been in major disrepair for decades. You know, that's one way of looking at it. With real estate value, you can look through a prism of 18 different angles and think about it in this way and think about it in this way. So that's my thought. I don't know that that's predictable. I can't, in my mind, not being a real estate expert, see a huge change in real estate value.
Are you talking about of the sort, or this?
No,
No,
property
of our
around it.
property.
You're talking about
Their
their property.
surrounding area.
Yeah, their home.
So in other words, would the appraised value of their homes go up
Right.
or down? I mean,
So typically, if I knew, nothing against it, if I knew that this was already built, I wouldn't have bought my house. Because I don't want to be next to commercial anything, right? So I bought my house knowing that I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to worry about that. That's the point I was trying to make. So now people like me that don't want to live next to that aren't going to be interested in, and then what's that do to our property value? If nobody wants it, well, then property value goes down. Again, no crystal ball, I understand. So just a thought.
I have a question that came up that I forgot about asking. A liquor permit. So you'll have to have a liquor permit. There are no liquor permits in the area other than up here at this end. Well, I guess Caston, Maine. So how does that process work? And I know we're not looking at that process now, but just looking through the crystal ball.
Well, obviously liquor permits are regulated by the state of Ohio, and there may be liquor permits available.
Right.
It's not like 10, 15 years ago when they were hard to get. Nowadays, they're readily available, but they have their own process for evaluating, is this a good place, is this an appropriate place, and putting on all the rules and regulations that they have. And it depends on which type of permit you're, do you want hard liquor, do you want this, do you want to do it, do you want to manufacture, because a lot of places want to, make their own, and so there's all sorts of regulations, but that's the state law. And obviously there will, it's an event center. That's going to be part and parcel of this. Will it be a pull permit that's tied to this location? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on what the operator thinks is the best route.
And some of those, correct me if I'm wrong, some of those different types of permits, I know a wee little bit about it, not just because my name's Jack Dana. Some of these would require local votes,
Yes.
and some wouldn't.
There's local review. And basically, when the permit comes up for renewal, if it's cited for this particular location, the permit would come up for renewal, and the local municipality could object.
We get those. We get those.
Only on renewal, not on issuance.
Correct. So on issuance, though, there are some ways that a liquor permit could be issued without a vote of the precinct.
Yes. I believe that's
I believe that's true. Because there's so many different types of permits.
Just
Go ahead.
one thing the mayor mentioned, the planning commission was very adamant about no access to the north. So just.
Speaking of Deborah, not speaking of Cassie.
Well, I'm just, when we came before the planning commission, they specifically said, we want a fence to make sure people do not go to the north. And that it goes this way. So I just want to make that clear that, at least the planning commission said, we don't want people going that direction.
That's the importance of speech. That's the importance of it. Because I think what they meant was Deborah and that allotment. They did not think about West Caston. I don't think that was, and I could be wrong, but that's the importance of speech and having everything written down.
Yeah, and that's not part of the recommendation. Of course, we could ask. I mean, that's not.
We could ask them and see, but I have a feeling that's.
I think it's a very
First, we had comment about
Go ahead.
going from,
I didn't get
try to
the
get the Gaston to the barn, we'd be going through wetlands.
Okay.
And unless the mayor wants to pay for a road, it's just not feasible to go through and put, I don't even know the right hurdles you'd have to go through to build a road instead of driving through wetlands. But the cost would be astronomical.
I suppose that's something that a traffic study could determine.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the specific route. I don't know. Again, it's not all wetlands. But that's something that could be investigated.
Yeah, you could relocate wetlands. You know, you could allocate. There's some things that could be done.
That's a great answer. I just say that's another option.
Right. I think there are some options that could be explored there. It may require the building of some homes and the development of some of that property to get a road out there. And again, this is this discussion. And I want to say that I really appreciate the public being here. I appreciate this very professional dialogue. This is what this town's about. This is what the people of this community are about, and it's very meaningful. I think it's safe to say we're not ready to vote, but let me throw that out to everybody else here. I'm assuming we want to continue this hearing. Yes. Yes. Okay, Jim, your thoughts?
I could go either way, but I think we still have some questions, like if we want to do a traffic study or if we think that's necessary. So probably would make sense. And if that's the case, I would suggest that we have our third public hearing 2 meetings from now. Give 30 days for things to happen.
For things to happen, a workshop.
If we're requesting more information instead of making it, unless they'd rather, but that'd be a thought.
Gentleman to my left.
I'd love to have some.
Okay. All right, well, I think we've heard enough. Go ahead.
Sorry, just had one more, and this is just, so what's the thought process behind putting over $1 million into a property before any of this was even thought of or talked about?
Probably should rethink that. I mean, it's just, it take a risk. I mean, it's just, it take a risk, so.
Well, there I can answer that. If it doesn't get approved for this, it will become something else.
Sure, but there was no plan B. There's,
It will be if.
But it would be a
There's
residential.
49 acres, and there is development pressure. And so at some point, if it's not this, then okay, then the developer's gonna have to pivot. And we're gonna look at all different options. I mean, and one thing I wanna make clear, two points. First of all, this is not a change of zoning. So whoever drafted your zoning code said, we are gonna allow, on a conditional basis, these type of uses. And there's a list, and it's 4 pages in your chart. And you go through the chart, and it's one of the conditionally approved uses. So we're going through the process, so it's not a zoning change. It's, it's not a variance request. It's a conditional use application. So whoever drafted your code and you adopted it said, okay, we're gonna live with this potential is in this document, right? So that's the roadmap that we gotta follow. The other thing on the traffic study, I'm just a little bit concerned, doesn't even know the occupancy. So it's gonna be difficult for any traffic professional to say, okay, based on X number of cars, because you don't know what X is right now, is how am I gonna generate, the trip studies and all the things that they study. I mean, could make some guesses, but it's probably gonna be that.
Do we have any info on that?
No, but I'm really glad you mentioned that. And what you said is accurate. And there's very few, there's really limited conditional uses in R2s. So this type would be one. But yeah, I was going to mention that before, because when I went up and on Sunday morning looked around, I looked in that barn again. And it's not that big. And we've had some, we just got done with, we have another zoning matter that's attracted some interest. And we kind of had a full house not too long ago on that. And it made us revisit our occupancy permit for this room here. Yeah, because the occupancy said 180, but that was before all of this area was, and so they came back in, and I can't even read it, but I think it's like 90 or 95 or something like this. Okay, so here's where I'm going. Again, this is your guys' business, not mine. But when I look at that barn, it's hard for me to imagine 200 people in there. And maybe so. And I do understand that you have to preserve it in its form. Now, I don't know if you can build on it or if you can't, and I don't know if your plans are to build on it, but if it was just the barn itself, and I'd encourage everybody to take a look, I would think that maybe you could, maybe you can give an estimate of what your occupancy is going to be, and maybe that would be helpful. Or maybe it wouldn't, I don't know, but it seems like something maybe you could kind of forecast in advance.
Isn't it an upper and lower level?
Yeah.
Bank barn.
Yeah, there is. There's two. Yeah. But on the other hand, it's hard for me to picture a reception where half the people are downstairs, the other half are
I
up.
was actually at an event.
Well, there you
It was
go.
an upper and lower. It wasn't a wedding, but
Okay.
it was.
Well, anyway, I don't know if that'd be helpful or if it'd be harmful. So,
Curious if you know off the top of your head approximate dimensions of the barn.
So you want to set the time we can all meet out there and
I think it would be great. Let me get my calendar.
now while you're doing that, procedurally, if you're going to move this out, I think it'll be May 15th. You want to continue this public hearing to that date.
Correct.
And that avoids the expense of us having to put it in the paper, but we'll let everybody know and we'll publish, we'll put it on websites and everything. That way you don't have to republish it.
I have a question. Have you been to Gervasi Vineyard?
Yes.
How would your vision compare to Gervasi of what this would look? I mean, because I think that's the best of the best. I mean, I'll put that up against any venue in the country.
Double that.
Huh?
That's a whole other level. I Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, because that's all new construction, it's beautiful.
Well, the bistro,
The
like, you know,
bistro.
just that barn.
And that's the restaurant, I think in that beach where they operate,
Right.
the restaurant, and I don't believe they, I mean, it's beautiful, I don't think anything that's done to the standards of National Park Service. So there's limited things that we can do, so to the mayor's point about putting an addition on it, we couldn't do that, we'd have to get the approval of the National Park Service plus the community, there's no plans to put an addition on to it, but you just, one of the things that we wanna do is we wanna put a metal roof on it, because that's more historically accurate, and we have to get approval of the National Park Service for that, make it a dead, and make it a metal roof.
Have you visited the rehab barn that's on Kyle Hubbard Street, the old, I'm gonna call it Cascade Park down there? It used to be a golf course. They refurbish the barn, National Park Service, and it's a wedding venue as well, holds about 100 people. I don't know if you've seen that one or not.
I think John.
The old Valley View Golf Course.
Do you mind if we have a workshop?
Of course
At
not,
Barn?
no.
And would you mind if we did that on a Sunday?
No.
That's kind of the day that,
No.
the way people's work schedules work.
And could you make sure that it rains a lot that day?
Yeah, sure. Although, anybody that saw it just came through and now, it was that big jump.
Careful, go around that S curve, you get slippery.
Yeah.
This
So,
the city council.
The public would be invited also.
Yes,
Because
yes.
it's a workshop that the public's invited. for.
Correct.
Workshop.
There may not be public input, so when it's a workshop, that's where.
Well, now there possibly could be liability issues in
Yeah,
the public.
why don't we just do it like groups of three?
Hmm?
We can just meet in like groups of three, that way it's not a public meeting.
I don't know, I'm not an attorney, I'm
And that would be-
on the radio.
We just can't have it. For sunshine laws, we're not allowed to gather in groups of more than three, because then we become a voting body. So if we're a voting body, we have to be in public. So that's why we have workshops where we don't have public input, but we talk, because we have to do it in public. So we're not allowed to, sunshine laws are very confusing. We have to go to a class to learn how they work. All right.
Would it be better if we just try to go on our own?
Okay, I'm fine with that, let's leave it at that, and,
I'm happy to meet at any time individually in groups of threes. I'd have to talk to our insurance agents, but one of the concerns, because there's construction there, so, I mean, if Pelham's more than welcome to come, but I prefer to do it in, like, manageable one or two people or so, and I want to talk to our insurance.
I think you bring up a very valid
Yeah,
point,
just, I
so.
don't want anybody to get hurt.
I mean, it seems, it's private property, so technically it's, potentially trespass. Although we can go back to law school and remember the different classes of trespass, whether invitees or business invitee. But let me get to the chase. If there's an understanding that council on their own could visit, would be authorized to go visit that premises, you're okay with that if they come individually? They're going there at their own risk. You guys understand that?
Well, I think we should contact him.
Yeah, we prefer we call.
Oh, yeah, schedule it ahead. Perfect.
Just, yeah,
Yes.
the reason I'd like to meet you there is I'd like to show you the farm.
There you go.
Correct.
And
I would like for
that's
you
lot.
to be there.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to be there without
Okay.
you there, or without a representative there, I don't think we're going that direction. Okay. Real quick, anything fit into 30 seconds? Okay, thank you
Maybe
again.
you could stack those, and if you'd be willing to give the time and have, three
Three
councilors
in the morning,
coming at
three in the
10 and three more coming
It
at
doesn't
11.
matter. I mean, I can come
That
in
way,
I can come in the morning, evening,
15.
whatever works best for the individuals, so.
So we're gonna continue this meeting, we're gonna skip the May 1st meeting, and we are gonna continue this hearing to 6 PM on May 15th, prior to the council meeting. All right. This hearing is adjourned. So now we go on to our city council meeting. Good evening. Before the regular council meeting starts, we first have, we had the public hearing, and then we do committee meetings. So after committee meetings, there will be an opportunity for people to speak. You'll get an opportunity at the beginning of the meeting, and then another opportunity at the end of the meeting. And the actual meeting starts after the pledge of allegiance, just so everybody knows like that. So we have, I believe, 8 first readings tonight, if I remember my count right. And 1 second reading that I think is going to be withdrawn, but we still have to read it. So the first committee will be Finance Committee, Mr. Cox.
Thank you. We will open the Finance Committee meeting at 7:04. Our first resolution is Resolution 24R30. Mr. Cox.
This is 24R30, a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds from the general fund to the police district fund and declaring an emergency. And one thing I just wanted to mention on this, we get a lot of questions that when we do our budget, we set aside a certain amount of money that's going to the police department. This isn't in addition to that. This is just a portion of that that's originally budgeted for the police that's actually going to transfer to the fund. So with that, do you guys have any questions on this? The next one I have is going to be 24R31. This is a resolution authorizing additional appropriations for the 2024 annual operating appropriation budget, declaring an emergency. Anybody have any comments on this? This is going to be the amount of $400,000 to the general fund, and this is for the paving program. Any comments? Alright. You guys okay waiving the 3 on this?
Yes.
Yes. Alright. Jim?
Thank you. We'll move on to resolution, let's see, how about resolution 24R34? A resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Montrose Ford for the purchase of a 2024 F-Series SD F-350 142-inch wheelbase pickup truck for the service department and declaring an emergency. And we'll tag that with resolution number 24R35. A resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Montrose Ford for the purchase of a 2024 F-Series SD F-350 145-inch wheelbase truck with utility bed for the service department and declaring an emergency. So we had this last year. We authorized purchase of 2 GMC trucks, and unfortunately, never get them. They just weren't available, they weren't being made, etc. So Mr. Kepler went to, somebody else went to Montrose Ford and said, what do you have? And this is what they have. It is a price increase. Both trucks, obviously, from last year to this year, and from going to GMC to Ford, is showing a little bit of a price increase. The one with the 142-inch wheelbase is about a $3,500 increase from what we approved last year. And then the other one is an increase of about $10,000 for the larger truck. Unfortunately, this is where we are. So we already approved so much money. With these 2 resolutions, we'll be basically approving an additional $13,000 to $14,000 for purchase of these trucks. Mr. Kepler, do we have an idea of when we'll be able to see these trucks?
As soon as I give them okay, they said 4 months.
4 months? So even that, we're still waiting 4 months.
Right, we're still waiting.
Yeah, so, questions, comments? Comfortable waiting 3 on both?
Yeah.
Thank you, we'll do that.
There'll be more money next time.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Let's see, what else do I have? Do I have anything else? We'll close the Finance Committee meeting at 7:09.
All right, next committee is Streets and Drainage, Mr. Alden.
Thank you. We'll open up the Streets and Drainage Committee at 6:09, with resolution 7:09, with resolution 24R32, a resolution awarding a bid to North Star Asphalt Incorporated for the City of New Franklin 2024 paving project and declaring an emergency. I think the administration has done a great job on this. They got 6 different bids from companies for start coming out on top with everything like that. This is for the parts of Nilmisilla between Main Street and Hampshire Road. I gotta read all this. There's a lot of it here, a lot of roads being worked on. West Wigard, East Wigard, Edna Drive, Green Valley Drive, Blossom Drive, Tweed Drive, Taplin Avenue, Midland Avenue, Catalina Drive, Vermillion Drive.
Castilia.
I'm sorry, Castilia, not Catalina, different road in Franklin, and Wycliffe Drive. So I think this is pretty good. I would open up for any more questions or comments upon this.
So first off, I say this is great. This is one of the things I really wanted to make sure we were doing when I got on council is take care of the roads and make improvements to it. So this is another great effort, I think, on our part to make that commitment and put the money into the roads. Another thing I had mentioned before was putting in a contingency when we come across change orders and stuff, so we're not holding up line as far as getting them done and then having a contractor come back out and remobilize and so on. I reached out to Brian about this, and these numbers already have a contingency in there. So once again, I think we've got to the point where these things are kind of turnkey for us now, and just a good job to staff to put this together.
Any more questions or comments? Comfortable waiving the 3?
Yes.
Perfect. And we also have Resolution 24R33, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with OHM Advisors for construction services for the New Franklin 2024 paving project and declaring an emergency. This falls along with what we're talking about. I'd like to open up the floor for any questions or comments. Comfortable waiving the 3?
Well, real quick, I'm sorry, I should have said this there. What this is going to do is, they're basically going to be the project manager for the paving. So they're the ones that are going to make sure that the right pavement is being put down, that they're following the proper laws and the specs of everything. They're, instead of us going out there and babysitting them, this is the company that's going to do that for us to a degree and make sure that we're getting good product, put down properly, and put down where it's supposed to go. So I think it's a great investment for us to be doing this. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, thank you for that input, Mr. Katz. Is there anything else?
I mentioned we got a good price too. This is OHM and Josh Slaga, who we're comfortable dealing with. And this contract is not to exceed $57,400. It may be a little bit less. Last year's, we added the parking lot, so they had to do it second. But the total of not to exceed last year was $56,300, and it came in a couple thousand under that. But when you compare those two numbers, there's not much of an increase this year. We appreciated that from OHM also.
And Mr. Allman, may I ask a question? I believe, all kidding aside, we are not allowed to do that. I think you have to
Oh, no, it's gotta be another
trained to
firm.
do it. So
Yeah.
we actually couldn't do it. It has to be someone that has the training.
Just outsource that. Is there anything else? Perfect. We'll close the Streets and Drainage Committee at 7:12.
All right, next we have community development. There's 2.5, we'll call it, resolutions.
All right, I'm gonna open up community development at 7:13. First reading on resolution number 24-R-36. A resolution authorizing New Franklin to take all actions necessary to accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, 2024 Energized Community Grants and declaring an emergency. Paul, you wanna?
Yeah, this is an annual. NOPEC makes community grant funding available for the municipalities that are part of that consortium. And the amount of the grant depends on how many people you have enrolled. This year, it's somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000. But it requires a resolution to allow us to apply and accept those funds. So we have to, this is an annual. And I got it to you late. Susan gave it to me 2 weeks ago, right after the last meeting, and then I put it in my folder, but I forgot to get it to Kelly. So that's why you got this one at the last minute. You got one other one at the last minute, and I'll explain that one as well. But so this is really a housekeeping thing that we do each year.
Just letting us receive money.
Exactly.
We like that.
Everybody good waiving 3?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Wolf?
Yes. We are resolution 24-R-37, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Myers Design, Inc. for an arch swing set for Grill Park and declaring an emergency. This is a revision of a previous resolution that was withdrawn, so it's not new.
Will be withdrawn.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
The old one was,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, the old one was, so we've seen this before, there had to be an adjustment on it. My understanding is the Parks Board has already approved, this, we have two quotes here. We went with the lower of the two, and it appears to be better, we're gonna have we'll have swing like this guy in there, so it will help.
Nice.
Much better design than the higher bid, which doesn't have that crossover.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we really like this. So
How many individual swings are there?
there's six sets, six different individual swings.
Then
So
those
all
swing.
of council can't fit on the,
Oh, we got teams, right?
plus the team thing.
So you guys know.
Oh, yeah. So, no, we're really excited. I think that the park will benefit greatly, from this. So is everybody comfortable waiving the three? We want to get this in before summer. Do you know, Mayor, timeline?
I think we're like 4 to 6 weeks, we understand that we'll get it in. Well, 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, so that would be just before summer, so.
I'd be lying if I didn't say I had sticker shock at first.
Yeah.
But I did, looks like they're made by a company called Superior. I did look up those part numbers and try to do just some last minute price comparing. And the prices we have are pretty good. So it's for those exact items.
Good. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, we're comfortable.
I was at the Parks meeting last night, and this is well within their budget, and they're gonna have money left over for everything, so.
Perfect. Back to you, Mr. Schaefer.
All right, so second reading, resolution number 24-R-29. This is a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Acoustical Surface, Inc. for sound barriers for the Tudor House lakefront patio and declaring an emergency. This is being withdrawn.
Yeah, I presented it 2 weeks ago, I had some feedback afterwards, concerns, is this gonna help, and if so, who should pay for it? And those are, those two concerns, I can't answer the question of the first one. I'm not sure it's gonna help or not. I had a personal feeling that it would, but I don't know this. And then in terms of the pricing, so my understanding is, and I've talked with Mason's Cove, and they're exploring some other options that they're gonna present to deal with sound issues. And that being the case, since it wasn't even a consensus between it following the first reading between myself and Mason's Cove, with that, I'm going to withdraw this, ask that this be withdrawn, and then we'll see what direction we go from here, what Mason's Cove recommends. And if it's their purchase, of course, we won't need resolution.
Do you know when they're going to have the recommendation?
We had a meeting, well, we had our general meeting on Monday, and I understand, I don't know that. I guess the short answer is I don't know.
Is it something we could find out?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that being said, I guess we're gonna close Community Development Committee at 7:17.
Did any other committees have any other business before we start the regular meeting? Hearing none, I call to order the regular meeting of the city of New Franklin with pledge of allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Kelly, can you call the roll?
Mr. Cox?
Present.
Mr. Schaefer?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mr. Daniels?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Present.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. Almond?
Present.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular scheduled meeting of April 3rd, 2024.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the financials for March of 2024, subject to audit.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Call the roll.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Motion passes. Now is our first opportunity for public input. If anybody has anything they would like to address council with, You have 4 minutes. We ask that you please direct your comments to council, and you have to state your name and your address. Here you go.
Hi, my name's Dave McCormick. We own the property 641 Latham Lane, which is immediately adjacent to the Tudor House. Thank you for allowing you to hear us tonight. I understand it's been withdrawn. I guess the question that would be begged is anything that happens at the Tudor House mostly has a negative impact on our property. Sometimes it's a positive, but rarely. If it's not going to come back in front of council and Masons Cove can make this decision independently, then there are questions that we think need to be answered, and we probably would request that it comes back to council. We've gone out on the website, we've taken a look at the type of curtain that they've suggested. They're very industrial looking curtains for the most part. We would be very concerned as to where the curtains were placed. We would want to understand the technology that was going to be used. They can either be done on a fence or they can be done with steel posts and with cables. We don't want this to be a replacement for the 9-foot wall that was discussed about this time last year. We want to understand which side of the curtain is facing outwards towards the properties. The quilted side is very industrial looking. Usually those are facing in towards a generator or where the noise is generated from. Also, it would be interesting to know the color. There are 3 color choices. There's gray, tan, or black. What would be done there? What would be the disposition of the curtains when there's not an event underway? Would they be, if they're on a sliding cable, would they be pulled back and held out of the way, or would they be left up semi-permanently, just like the tent is throughout the year? Those are the things that I think initially come to mind as to why we should have the ability, as a public forum, to hear this and not allow Masons Cove to make that decision independently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right, hearing none. Okay, so Kelly, first readings.
Resolution 24R-30, a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds from the general fund to the police district fund and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was assigned to the Finance Committee. I'd like to make a motion to waive the rules for Resolution 24R-30.
Second.
First and second. Kelly?
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 24R-30.
Second.
First and second. Any discussion? Kelly?
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Resolution 24R-31, a resolution authorizing additional appropriations to the 2024 annual operating appropriation budget and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was assigned to the Finance Committee, and I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 reads.
Second.
First and second. Any discussion? Kelly?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes. Motion passed.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 24R-31.
Second.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes. Motion passed. Keep going.
Resolution 24R-32, a resolution awarding a bid to North Star Asphalt Incorporated for the City of New Franklin 2024 paving project and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was assigned to the Streets and Drainage Committee. I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
First and second. Kelly?
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 24R-32.
Second.
First and second. Any discussion? Kelly?
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Resolution 24R-33, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with OHM Advisors for construction services for the New Franklin 2024 paving project and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was also assigned to the Streets and Drainage Committee. I'd like to make a motion to waive the three.
Second.
First and second, Kelly?
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 24R33.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Kelly?
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Resolution 24R-34, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Montrose Ford for the purchase of a 2024 F-Series SD F350 142-inch wheelbase pickup truck for the service department and declaring an emergency.
This resolution is assigned to the Finance Committee. We move to waive the three readings on Resolution 24R-34.
Second.
First and second, Kelly?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
We move to adopt Resolution 24R-34.
First and second, any discussion? Kelly?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Resolution 24R-35, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Montrose Ford for the purchase of a 2024 F-Series SD F350 145-inch wheelbase pickup truck with utility bed for the service department and declaring an emergency.
This resolution is assigned to the Finance Committee. We move to waive the three readings, on Resolution 24R-35.
Second.
First and second, Kelly?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes. We move to adopt Resolution 24R-35.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Kelly?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
I would go to 36.
Resolution 24R-36, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to take all actions necessary to accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, 2024 Energized Community Grants and declaring an emergency.
This was brought before Community Development Committee. I'd like to make a motion to waive the three.
Second.
First and second, Kelly?
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to adopt this resolution.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Kelly?
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 24R-37, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Meyer Design Incorporated for an arch swing set for Grill Park and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was assigned to the Community Development Committee. I'd like to make a motion to waive the three readings.
Second.
First and second, Kelly?
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution 24R37.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Kelly?
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Resolution number 24R-29, a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Acoustical Services Incorporated for sound barriers for the Tudor House lakefront patio and declaring an emergency.
This resolution was also brought before the Community Development Committee, and we are going to withdraw resolution 24R-29.
Withdrawal accepted. All right, that takes us on to, drum roll please, the favorite part of the meeting, which is mayor's report.
Thank you. You'd be happy to hear not too much tonight. First of all, we had a fire truck, a very, very, very old fire truck, a 1992. And it's still shocking to me to say 1992 and realize that was 32 years ago. But anyway, we don't need this fire truck anymore. And we tried to repurpose it for the service department. It did not turn out to be effective. And it came back up here and the fire department was going to try to use it for some things and they have no use for it. And so at this point in time, they're asking for the authority to take it down to Skipco and auction it. We've done that with a couple other vehicles. Back in August 3rd of 2022, we passed a resolution, the council passed a resolution allowing disposition of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit personal property. And that resolution requires that if the property has an estimated value of $1,000 or more, notification has to be provided to council, and then council, a motion from council to approve the auction sale is required. And so it's suggested that they're going to set a minimum bid price at $3,500. If everybody wants a 1992 GMC fire truck, it's sitting out there. I was interested. I wanted to drive it once. It's an automatic.
How many seats are there?
I don't know. But anyway, it's going to go down to Skipco. It's going to go to auction. And what I need from council is a motion to approve the auction of that vehicle.
So moved.
So moved. The second, I think we can do that.
Second.
Have a first and a second.
What was the first?
It was just so moved that we made a motion for that sale.
Okay.
First, approving, and second.
And who was the second?
Mr. Allman.
Thank you.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. We're going to be proceeding with forming a project team for State Route 619. We don't want there to be confusion about that. That grant, there's again, it might surprise you to know that there's a development that's proposed for that area. And I say that facetiously, but it's serious business. A lot of people care a lot about that. And I know council and planning and zoning are putting a lot of effort to listen and hear and do what's best. But in any event, kind of similar to Sorick, something's going to happen down there. It's going to be developed. The developer can put in, I can't remember how many houses, 20 or 30, without even coming to council on that property. So there's going to be some development down there. It's just a question of what. So we know that. And we've got property owners on 619 who have indicated that if they had sewer and they had water, they might be able to do more with that stretch. So we know eventually there's going to be more traffic. There's already about 10,000 cars a day. So, and I'm going into some detail because I think there might have been some confusions in people's minds that this was somehow tied to that golf course development, which it's responsive to the fact that there's going to be some development, but it is totally independent of that. And the idea being to get out in front of this and see what the city might want to do, what the people might want to see in that stretch of 619. And we were fortunate enough to qualify for a $40,000 grant from AMATS to do that study. And so as part of that, we said all along we wanted stakeholders, we're going to put a project team together I'm in communication with the lead person from AMATS, and we're in the process of trying to set up the first meeting for this project team. It's going to be late May, early June, somewhere around there. Ultimately, what will happen next is requests for proposals will go out for an engineering firm to do that design work. AMATS picks those folks, we don't. But the project team will have some input into that. So originally I reached out to Mr. Schaefer, he's a property owner over there, he's indicated he has an interest. There may be a successor in interest, another individual there. I was, when we were at the golf course meeting, a lady who's been very responsive and active in that, and that would be Betsy Ingles. And so she has agreed to be part of that. AMATS has said you don't want to get this thing too big, this project team. So we're looking between 5 and probably 7 to 9 people. And I don't think we're going to have to advertise. We've had some interest expressed. I reached out to Ayers Insurance, since they're clearly a major stakeholder over there, and Nick Wladacek. I'm not even going to tell you how to spell that one, although I know because it was on one of my teams one time. So anyway, but now he's going to be running that place. Karen's retired, so he's agreed. And I've got a couple people coming into the office tomorrow who own property on 619. They're interested.
If I could just say real quick, I would love to see somebody from Boston or Melton, somebody that lives in that. You have different types of. Jeff Angeli might be. Right.
And Mr. Powell mentioned that as well. And I spoke to Jeff and his wife. Either one of them would be a good representative. So I think it's a good idea to get somebody from that side as well.
They're well known.
So, and they're available. We got to coordinate everybody's calendar, but more than willing. And plus, Jeff has a lot of expertise in infrastructure. So anyway, we're putting that team together, and we'll keep everybody advised. And whatever we do, we'll keep everybody on the loop, and we'll try to get some good ideas of what, rather than let people tell us what they want to see there, we'll let the people that are stakeholders there tell us what they'd like to see. Okay. There is there's been remediation. The poor Caitlin Drive people have been through it, and they went through the whole BP remediation issue, and most of you are aware of that, the pipeline and the spills and the degradation of the water and the benzene in the water, et cetera, et cetera. We're going back into the 90s on that one. EPA has been managing that site and in conjunction with BP, and they have reached a point where, and they spent a ton of money and whatever. They now have what they call a final plan for approval for their remediation. In other words, what remains. And that requires, according to EPA guidelines, a public hearing. That's what we wanted, was one more public hearing. So they've been talking to us about that. I've talked with BP about that. BP had to submit their remediation plan. EPA looked at it, and BP gave 4 different options for remediation, further remediation. The EPA has made had preliminary approval as to the one they thought might be the best. This public meeting is going to take place sometime in June. We're pretty close to having a date, sometime about the second week of June. And we'll give plenty of notice, and clearly all the people that are in the remediation area are going to get notice through APA, but we'll also notify the people publicly, and there may be some people in adjoining neighborhoods who want to see what has happened and what's going to happen. They expect this is going to be a couple hours. They expect there's going to be 75 to 125 people. They want to know where we could put that. I said, well, they're doing a barn up there. You laugh so you don't go nuts. So please understand, when I say stuff like this, I'm not trying to be a wise guy. I understand that people care about this stuff. Just trying to keep them sanity.
The school.
Well, I talked to the school, and they're doing a bunch of stuff because they're in. So, Grace Church has agreed to allow us to come there. And they've got the amphitheater there, and so they're gonna host us for that. We'll give you the dates on all that. But what I'm getting to is this. This is complex stuff. Several years ago, we thought that maybe BP would pay to run water lines. And we thought, well, that'd be nice for the community, because there's a lot of people who like to have water, even if they're not in that remediation. We get water up Center Road, and at one time we thought it might even be a time to help the school. Well, it wasn't. So that's one of the options that was presented, but it's not the one, at least preliminarily, that the EPA is endorsing. I don't know if that's the best choice or not. So I reached out to a consultant to engage them to review the BP plan, to review the EPA report, and to advise us as to what they think the best option for the city might be, in the best interest of the city in general and the best interest of those residents. And they had two different phases, but in any event, it's whittled down to a not to exceed $10,000. So it doesn't require a resolution. I wanted you to be aware of it. I think that we need it. I don't want to rely on, I don't have any expertise in these areas. So I guess I just generally ask, does anybody think that it's a bad idea to engage these people to get them on board for this purpose? Or does anybody think it's a good idea?
Yes.
I like it.
All right.
I do too. I was around, and I had a buddy that lived right across the street, so I knew that it didn't go across Center Road, at least up by Reniger, but did they even investigate where the Zork farm is?
Oh, yeah, yes. And I was even involved in there. Anyway, there's a civil action. But no, the test all showed that it did not go on the north side of Center.
Okay.
It did go beyond Reniger, as you know, all the way up almost to the Grace Church.
Well, what I'm saying is it was a very complex matter, and I think $10,000 investment for somebody to give us advice is.
Okay, all right. I'm going to proceed then. All right, let me see. And the only other thing I would tell you is that we're continuing the chase for money. And I guess Representative Sykes is going to be here Monday or Tuesday with one of those big giant checks. That you may have seen it in Barbara. I don't know if we can cash it. But well, actually, we got to, there's hoops you got to jump through with the EPA to get that money, but that's a big deal. But I'm going down next Tuesday to meet again with the Ohio Department of Development. And we've been down there, this will be the third time down. But I just want to, we're getting close to the time where they're going to start making their allocations from the Ohio Builds Fund. And they've agreed to meet with me again on Tuesday afternoon. While I'm there, I'm going to try to drop in on any of the state reps that we can to let them know. It's two different pots we're really after right now, and one is the state capital budget, along with all that community investment funds at $700 million, and the other is the Ohio Builds Fund, and that's under the Ohio Department of Development. So we're trying to get our hands into both pots. So I'll keep you posted in that regard.
I'm gonna be in Columbus. I don't know if you'd be open to me joining you.
Sure, why not? Yeah, we'll coordinate. Okay.
Might be a good idea, might not.
All right.
Take Jim.
All right, that's all I got.
All right. Thank you. Susan's not here, Ms. Cook's not here for a finance report, so that moves us on to old business.
We have some.
It could be old business,
Yeah.
maybe. I know it's only the middle of April, but Memorial Day is coming up quickly. And I'm sure Christine has been working very hard on plans for the parade. Any needs or anything?
No, not at this time. We have a prospective honoree that actually got some meetings later this week to try to firm up. So far so good.
And that's, again, going to be on Monday, Memorial Day Monday. And it's 10 o'clock as usual, leaving Grace Church and going down to the cemetery on Minnesota. Always a fun event.
It is.
It's unfortunate we may not have a 1992 fire truck to be in that parade.
It may not sell, it may not sell that.
Might not sell.
So
Maybe we'll drive
Be
it
able to drive it.
down and then just keep going down to Canal Fulton.
We could have council ride on it.
Yeah, I asked how many seats.
The other thing, is, about a month, Sunday, May 19th is Sail in the Summer at the Tudor House, a great event. Look forward to that. It starts at noon, I think, yeah, 12 to 5.
I'm going to be there because we're going to do farmer's market and we have a sign-up sheet for vendors and for people that want to donate time. And we have sheets of paper telling about the farmer's market.
Nice.
So that will be nice. And that's the first event I'm going to do.
Excellent.
Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
Any other old business? New business?
I would like to talk about farmer's market. Judy Williams has said that she would be in charge of this committee. And we met at her house. Barry's on the committee, I am, and Terry. And we have a gentleman that is there. His last name, Tim
Lusk.
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 And as I said, we're going to be passing out flyers on May 19th. We will be there and we'll have a sign-up sheet. And I think Terry and I both are going, aren't we, Terry? And we'll have information. And we're passing out information to the schools because a lot of the kids need community time so they can help to donate and that will bring more parents in. So if any of you gentlemen would like to help on that committee, we would love it in any way.
Would you like to give the dates that we're starting?
The dates are going to be July the 11th through September 26th. It's going to be, and it's going to be from 3 until 7.
Every day or?
She said, what?
Thursday.
47, I'm sorry.
Thursdays, okay.
It's going to be on Thursdays, July the 11th through September 26th, which is the end of September.
And I apologize for not mentioning that.
I'm sorry, it is
Well, you know
free.
what, Paul, I thought you just left it for Vera and I to do.
Well, I'm glad I did, because it's such a big deal.
It
I think it
And
is
we've
too. I
had
think
people
people
want
are
that for a
really
long
love it.
time.
And we're going to have popcorn that day. Terry and I are going to do popcorn and serve that. It'll be free of charge. And we'll have the sign-up sheet and a little brochure for everyone.
What's the location?
We're going to be at the Tudor House on the Sail into Summer for.
No, the actual farmer's market.
No, the actual farmer's market will be right out here.
Okay.
And we're going to have that every Thursday evening
That's at City Hall.
at City Hall,
The farmer's markets will be right here in the parking lot.
at the parking lot, straight out.
However,
Judy, do you want to add anything to it?
it is no responsibility of the city. The city is not liable, which is in the agreement. It's just a community thing that we're pulling together. And any of you can come, you're more than welcome. But the council of the city is not responsible for it.
They're just allowing us to use the space.
Correct.
And you do have to sign waivers. And we have it. That you'll be responsible for everything that you bring in and to clean up afterwards. Gary, do you want to add anything?
About farmer's market.
Mm-hmm.
But we would like to talk about the cemetery.
You want to talk about that too?
So there is a cemetery volunteer committee that we're trying to get together to help clean up the cemeteries a couple times a year. So I'd like everybody to pass that along, maybe sign up, so we know who we can call and count on to help clean the cemetery up.
They can actually email any one of us at the, on the council and they can pass it along.
That's correct.
Anybody else? I'd just like to say something under new business. The 619 project, I think, is a really unique opportunity for the city of New Franklin. No matter how you feel about development, what is going to end up happening, what could happen, this study to look at the concept of that road, and we have different pockets. We're a relatively large city, you know. If it weren't for Clinton cut out and what was annexed up in the northwest corner, we're almost the same size as Greene, which is the biggest city in all of Southern County. So we're a small community, but we've got a lot of land. There are pockets of area where development is severely resisted, and there are pockets of area where development is welcome. And 619, really, all the way across, seems to be an area where the community is I don't want to say with open arms, because everybody has a fear of change, But this concept that we're thinking this whole area through, and the idea of the golf course development giving us the opportunity to extend a main trunk sewer all the way up to State Road
That's huge.
is huge. The concept of expanding sewer around the lakes without forcing residents to tap in and have to pay frontage fees is massive. I mean, that is an opportunity that communities like this don't get often. And I hope the community understands that opportunity, that if something spoils that, it could be decades before we get another opportunity like that across 619. And think about the betterment of our Portage Lakes. We're not forcing houses, but if we get that main trunk in, then those local communities can work on their own over time. Their septic systems age, and they can work on their own to come in. It really is the best of both worlds, of all worlds. I hope it all comes to fruition. I think the great plan. Mayor Adamson has been kind enough to include me on some of the meetings to discuss some of this with the county, because the sewer project is a county project. I just think it's a good opportunity, and stay tuned, because I think it's a good thing for the city. I want to say that.
It is, Jack, and I agree with you, and I think all of us agree. And Paul, we thank you, because you've done so much to spearhead this and to help us. You really have, we appreciate it.
We're all in it together.
That's it. Okay, here you go. We have one more opportunity for public questions and answers for issues raised at tonight's meeting. Hearing none. We do have a need for executive session to discuss pending litigation. Imminent litigation. No decisions will be had at this meeting or in this executive session. That's it.